What is up, guys? So I know it's been a long time since I made a video, but as you guys can see, I got a new bike. So this is my Surron Ultra Bee. This is actually a 2023 model, so it's not the one with the newer motor or the 18-inch tire, but still good. I sold my upgraded Light Bee for this bike. I was choosing between the Stark Varg, the Storm Bee, and the Eride Pro, but ended up going with the Ultra Bee just because I love how this bike feels. It's the perfect size for me, and I really like the ergonomics of the Ultra Bee. So why did I sell my Surron? Well, I basically fully upgraded the Surron. I touched every single thing but the frame. There's pretty much nothing else that I could upgrade, and I still felt like that my Surron needed a little bit more. I felt that the suspension was not suited for what I wanted to do. I'm a mix between street rider and a track and trail rider, so I do basically pretty much a little bit of everything. I like to ride street, wheelies, I like to ride trails, hard enduro, and I also like to ride the track and do some jumps. So that's why the Light Bee felt a little bit too small. Suspension and brakes were from a mountain bike, which wasn't suited for the speeds or the jumps that I was doing. I was always bottoming out the suspension, and the bike just felt a little too small and too light for the jumps that I was doing. This Ultra Bee, however, the suspension feels kind of or almost like a dirt bike. Not quite there yet, but very, very similar. This bike feels more like a dirt bike than a mountain bike. I felt that the Surron, Talaria, and that Eride Pro is kind of like a mountain bike size class compared to the Ultra Bee and the Storm Bee and the Stark Varg. However, these Ultra Bees are not as big as the Storm Bee or the Stark Varg. This is a little bit smaller, so that's why I like this bike. It's the perfect in between the Surron Light Bee and a Stark Varg. However, I do wish that this Ultra Bee had a little bit more power. I believe that's the only thing that this bike is lacking. Suspension and brakes feel amazing compared to the Light Bee. Whenever I hop on a Light Bee, Eride Pro, or a Talaria, it feels like I'm hopping on a mountain bike compared to this bike. So what upgrades did I do so far to this bike? Well, this bike is pretty much stock. As you guys can see, I have a sticker kit. I bought this sticker kit off of eBay for $100. And I also got the Project 9 Underglow. Really adds to the aesthetic and look of this bike. And I also got their functional brake light, because the off-road versions of the Ultra Bee don't come with any rear light at all. It's really dangerous riding at night. So this Project 9 Designs Ultra Bee tail light really makes it safer riding at night, and it also has a functional brake light option, meaning that when you press your brakes, the light gets brighter. And of course, I have a custom one in the front that's not available yet. And I also did the Project 9 titanium foot pegs. I really love these foot pegs. When I ride trails, hard enduro, it gets really muddy. So these foot pegs really help with making all of that mud fall through the peg and not get caked up on your foot pegs. And I also did all of the KKE disc guards. It's really important if you're doing some hard enduro to have some disc guards, because if you do bend your disc in the trails, your bike is pretty much going to be stuck And one of my most favorite upgrades that I did is this steering damper. So as you guys can see, I have some knobby tires on the front. And when you're riding with knobby tires in the front on the street and you're going at high speeds, it gets a little bit wobbly on the front end and you get a little bit head shake, I noticed, and even on the track. So that's why I got this steering stabilizer or a steering damper, so it reduces that head shake. It is fully adjustable, so on the track and on the street, I make it all the way tight. And then when I'm riding trails and stuff like that, I basically turn it all the way loose, so it feels like stock. I also got this Enjoy seat cover, and it has these ribs to help with the added grip. I got this off of eBay for about another $100. Really helps when you're doing wheelies, especially like the stand-up wheelies when you're standing on the seat. And I also got these IRC Shinko 241s. This is the 3.5 in the back, and I still have the stock wheels on this, but I just changed the tires. I really like this rear tire for street riding. These 241s are like a perfect dual sport tire. They do have a lot of grip in the off-road trails, track, and they also have a lot of grip on the streets. But the performance, of course, is not going to be as good on the off-road as like a big knobby tire. So since my dad upgraded his wheel sets, I took his rear stock wheel, and what I did is I bought a MX 3400 by 90 by 19 from Dunlop, and I slapped it on the stock wheel so that whenever I go riding trails or go on the track, I take off my rear wheel, switch out the disc and the sprocket, put it on this one, and put this rear wheel on this bike. So it's an easier way to do like a tire swap, just because these Shinkos, the 241s, of course it's okay in the off-road, but it's not going to be as good as like a big knobby tire like this one. On the street, this knobby tire is a little bit too knobby for me. When I'm doing wheelies and stuff, I can really feel those knobbies. And this is a fairly expensive tire, about $180. So I do not want to wear this tire down riding on the street. And on the front, I have the Geomax MX 34s from Dunlop. And since I'm a trail rider too, I also got the Project 9 steering bumpers. Now the stock steering bumpers on this bike come out a lot, and when you turn your suspension or your fork all the way, the stock one would stop your steering radius like that, or a little bit like that. But this one allows you to have a better steering angle and make tighter turns. So I really like that. Also got this SXS skid plate. Really love this skid plate. It does the job really good. And I'd say that if you're doing any type of off-roading, this skid plate is a must for this bike. The stock skid plate, if you hit a rock really hard or a log, it's so close to this that sometimes you bend this actual part of the frame. So I sold my fully upgraded Light Bee for a deal. I sold it. I let that thing go for $5,500. At the time, I bought this bike a year ago. So this bike was going brand new for around $8,000 in Hawaii. A little bit more expensive in Hawaii, just because we have to cover all of those shipping costs. But in my opinion, even though I had to dish out extra $3,000 to get the Ultra Bee from the Light Bee, I really do not regret going with this bike. Such a big upgrade from the Light Bee. So the one thing I love about this Ultra Bee is the brakes. These brakes feel like full-size motorcycle brakes. I'm pretty sure they are actually, or like moped brakes. But these things are on a whole different level than the mountain bike brakes on the Surron Light Bee, Talaria, and Eride Pro. I mean, these things stop you on a dime. And in the trails, if you're doing like steep downhills, really helps with that. On the Light Bee, there's some instances where the brakes wouldn't even stop me. And the brakes were so small that if you're doing like really big downhills, the brakes fade really fast on the Light Bee. On the Ultra Bee, I've never even felt any brake fade at all. Basically, brake fade is when you keep on using these brakes, they get really hot and the braking power degrades as the temperature rises. And I've never ever felt that on this bike. The other thing that I really appreciate is this suspension. Now this suspension, I believe, is not a full-size dirt bike suspension yet. It's still on like an 85 level suspension. But honestly, like I'm 5'6", 140, 130 pounds. So this suspension feels like perfect, really, for me. On the other hand, my dad's a little bit bigger than me. He's around 5'10", 250 pounds. So he does say that this suspension is a little bit lacking for him, and he's looking to upgrade his suspension. I'm gonna keep mine stock just because I don't see really any benefit to upgrading the suspension for me right now. And this is my dad's bike. So my dad did a lot more upgrades than me so far. He does ride a lot more trails. So this bike is going to be focused more on the hard enduro rider. As you can see, the biggest upgrade he got is the EBMX X9000. And I've rode these bikes back to back, and what I can say from the X9000, I really like how programmable you can make the throttle feel and how smooth this controller evens out the power band on these bikes. I always say that the stock Ultra Bee feels like the throttle goes from like 0% throttle to like 50, 75, then 100. This X9000 allows you to like smoothen out that power band, and it's a smooth and gradual throttle increase rather than like a really sharp and twitchy throttle on the stock bike. Really like that X9000 for trails when you really need to be light on the throttle sometimes on hill climbs or logs or rocks, stuff like that. Also did primary chain drive conversion. This is still the regular 421. I believe there's a company now that makes a 520, so a thicker chain in the front. And he also did these super gummy enduro Geocoda tires from IRC. So these are really wide. I believe, yeah, these are a 110 and a really soft gummy enduro tire. He also did the bigger sprocket in the back. He also did the 2118 wheel setup on this bike. The 21 in the front really makes that front end feel a lot more stable. I really do like the feel of the 21, so in the future I am going to be upgrading that front wheel. Not too sure about the back. I might still keep that 19 in the back. And of course he did all the guard upgrades to protect the disc brakes from rocks. And he also got these hand guards and some straps for when your bike is stuck. It is a lot easier to move it around. Yeah, that's about it that he did on this bike. Overall, I really enjoy my bike so far. I've had it about a year and I've done about, let's see, 958 miles on it. So it's barely even ridden. I've just been busy recently, haven't been able to ride as much, but whenever I do ride, I really enjoy riding this bike.